Hello, and welcome to Flix and a Six. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanzo, with me, forever and always, the man, the myth, the android bartender, Alessandro Bielsi.
I'll take it. I was a fan of that character.
The flick of this week is going to be Passengers, but first, Al, what are we drinking? It's something special.
Something pretty special.
It's a treat.
Something special delivered in a special way.
I tried to take it, but Al insisted we share it.
You weren't allowed to have the whole thing. It's too much for you for one episode. Especially considering we had some...
Tell me I can't hold my liquor?
Yes.
Fair.
Also...
I'm not going to fight you on it.
we had some pre-show libations, which you seem to be a fan of.
We did. Okay, so prior to the beer that we're getting into, I got to actually have the beer that Al drank last week. Was it last week?
Well, it depends on when we air this episode. But it was last week. As of right now.
It was last week. It was Al's Amber Ale.
Yes, the quadrilogy.
The quadrilogy, as it were. And I got a chance to drink that before this episode, and good God, was that delicious. And not only was it delicious, hats off to my cousin here, because this was the first time that I said that the beer could have been handed to me in a glass, and I would not have known that he made it. It tasted as it would come out of a mass-produced can, somebody that really knew what they were doing. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
And cheers to you for that.
Cheers. I'm going to walk away temporarily because I'm in a little bit of mess. I'm just going to grab some paper towels.
This is great.
So you just talk a little bit.
I'm sitting here while Al gets his paper towel, and I'm staring at these two gigantic mugs. They look like they could hold close to a liter of beer.
It's a half liter.
It's a half liter?
Yeah.
Okay, that was deceiving then. It's a half liter of beer. Thanks to the man off stage, and it's like so appetizing and has it's got too much of a head right now, but it still looks delicious. He poured it for the sound effects.
I did. I poured it aggressively for the sound effects.
Like we have to, we take a hit every once in a while.
Yeah.
With these
that's fine. The head's
these
coming
studio quality sound effects that we produce for the opening of the show.
So first, let's talk about that. I don't think I actually mentioned the beer.
You didn't mention it.
So what we have this week is fan favorite.
Don't do that either. Don't slide that across the table.
I know, you really don't like that.
Al's not monitoring this episode. I have the headphones on, and that was loud.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were worried because of when you thought I was, throwing your beer across the table before, like I did that.
Don't get me wrong. That's my primary concern. The second concern is the listener's ears.
Yeah, I was not thinking about it because, as you said, I'm not plugged in this episode.
More specifically, your brother's friend, Brian?
Yes.
We don't want to blow his speakers out again.
No, it wasn't Brian.
No, it was.
Brian was one of them.
Yes.
Friend of the podcast, Josh Arcaro, also ruined actual speakers.
That's funny.
Completely. His work speakers are done. So anyway, this is favorite of the show, favorite of the fans, favorite of us, Newburgh Brewing's LagerBoss. So I believe we did GigaBoss once. Newburgh Brewing has their line of Boss beers.
Wasn't GigaBoss? There was another one we did too. Right.
We've done a couple of their beers, but of their Boss line. They have GigaBoss, MegaBoss, and NanoBoss.
Right. Okay.
GigaBoss is their double IPA, MegaBoss is their IPA, and NanoBoss is a pale ale. They're all within the same family of beers.
Right.
Strength and IBUs are greater with each one that goes up.
You're an IBU.
I cannot be an IBU.
I'm sorry, I just looked off screen and that bastard was dancing in my peripheral vision.
So, I may have mentioned it on air before. I don't remember. I usually throw on the TV and I just mute it in the background, especially when me and Anthony are Skyping episodes. We happen to be doing our first face-to-face recording in quite some time, which is nice, since the Easter episode.
It's good to have.
So we have...
Get back to our roots.
The second Austin Powers on in my basement while we're sitting here.
Love it.
So, I have for us the LagerBoss. They made a lager, and they dry hopped it like they do with their IPA series.
You gotta love that dry hop.
Yeah, and the reason that we did this one, and it was somewhat special, is because Anthony has told me in the past that he's become a huge fan of IPAs that have Citra hops in them.
Woo!
So when I saw that the LagerBoss, which was very recently released, had Citra hops in it, I sent him a picture of the release.
My mouth is watering as you speak.
Okay, we'll take a sip.
Can we cheers on this? Thank you. I'm going to sit here listening to you. Oh, good God, that's so good. Oh, it's the stuff. This beer, and we had Heady Topper. Mm-hmm. This beer is my favorite that we've done on the show.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So better than
Let that simmer.
Better than Alexander.
I didn't do that on the show. You did that on the show.
Well,
to be fair, I was having scotch.
We did it on the show, and now you drank it.
Not to knock yours down a peg at all.
No, they're professionals.
But these
I was just putting you.
This is the beer that I like. This is the exact type of beer that I love.
Can you pick out the Citra hop? Because
yes,
I'm about to tell you
either that or some citrusy hop.
I'm about to tell you the hops in it, and there are many more different varieties of hops than you'll typically see in a beer.
Oh, it's so good.
So the LagerBoss,
drinking that too quick.
It's really good, right?
Oh, it's so
you don't have a
delicious.
full pint. It's a 32 ounce. Oh, before we'll talk about the vessel too, which is special. I wanted to do something that was going to be
fantastic,
kind of surprising to Anthony, but there wasn't. I was thinking about it before we actually got into it, and there wasn't really a great way to do the whole pour thing and do our thing where we talk about it and also show him the surprise. So I showed him what we had before. So it comes in what they're calling. I don't know if they actually came up with the name or not. You're stroking the beer. It's weird.
It's so good.
It is really sexually charged how you're stroking that beer. So anyway, Newburgh.
There was the beer fest. I want this beer. I want to be inside this beer. I want this beer inside of me.
Yeah. Beer Fest is a great movie too. So they have equipment for doing on the spot canning. But what I have in my hand is not a 12-ounce can. It's not a 16-ounce can. It's not a 22-ounce can. It's a 32-ounce can. It's a can that's kind of like a growler. So they
It's out of
call it
control.
a Crowler. They literally made this can of beer in front of me. And then they stuck a sweet little name tag thing on it. You know, like when you go to like a convention for work and they give you the hello, my name is. Well, this says hello, my name is LagerBoss. Pleasure to meet you. And I showed this to Anthony, and he
I almost lost it.
He embraced it like it was a newborn child.
I did hold it like an infant.
You did.
There was a point. Which is, yeah. But I want to actually give you a quick fun fact about a can this size that I once had. Not a beer, but a Rockstar energy drink. Now,
a 32 ounce Rockstar.
Yeah, by myself. And I used to work at the pizzeria Friday nights. The pizzeria that is where the Spinchoon came from. On Friday nights, from like 4 to 11, and then I used to work Saturdays, 11 to 11, 12-hour shift. And I drank one of these Friday night near when we were closing. Now, back in the day when I used to work at the pizzeria, on Friday nights, we would always go to the movie theater afterwards. We would go see The Late Show, whatever was out that week. We saw a lot of garbage, we saw a lot of great things, but we were like, it was like almost religious. Like we were there every Friday night. It would be other, my cousin Marie that used to work with me, my friends and stuff. We would all go.
I actually didn't realize that Marie worked.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not surprised. I didn't know for a fact.
Yeah, family business. So I drank one of these, went to the movies, don't remember what I saw, went from the movies to the beach to play soccer, because we did this in the middle of the night sometimes, usually on Saturday after my long shift. Played soccer on the beach, stayed up real late, got home, took a shower, went to work. Did not sleep.
Excellent.
That's a lot of Rockstar.
Yeah, it is.
Crashed real quick into that day.
I'm sure you did. I'm
We had
guessing
more
you probably had
waiting.
to have another one.
Oh yeah, they were. That's where one of my dad's friends brought them to the pizzeria, so there was more there.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Not good for you, but
No.
fantastic.
I'm very surprised my heart didn't explode. I'm pretty sure it said on the can not to do what I did.
What, drink all of it?
Yeah.
I feel like saving that would be gross.
No, I think you're supposed to share it.
It's weird.
I'm pretty sure a standard size can of that is more than enough for a single human being.
Rockstar. Yeah, I realize.
Wasted.
Rockstar. Gigantic energy drink. Share the heart attack.
I like it.
So anyway,
It's
to
like
finish
drinking the Kool-Aid.
finishing up our beer talk on the LagerBoss, it's 5.8% alcohol by volume. It's a dry hop lager. It has Mittelfra, Hersbrucker, Cascade, I almost called it Eureka, Citra, and Lemon Drop hops. That's 6 type of hops. It says that it has notes of citrus and tropical fruits, subtle spices, and light bread notes. It's the lager member of the Boss family.
So good. It's so good.
It's really good.
I'm a huge fan. You've done it again, Newburgh.
I really enjoy this. I mean, I got to have it this week because this was the release of this week, and I said, okay, I had it. It's awesome. Anthony's coming over this weekend. Give me a Crowler.
Oh, man, why don't we just go there tonight? Got a table in the back, record the episode at the bar.
Well, they have live music on Saturday nights. They close at 12. They close at 12, so it's 1:30 in the morning. So I don't know how the recording.
It's 1:30.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
Well, we fiddled around for a while when we came in, and then
That's fair.
With setting up the recording on my computer instead of yours because we're down a man.
We ate random leftovers.
We had random leftovers.
My
leftovers
I
were
watched.
random.
I was watching. What was I watching? 16 Candles with your sister, who apparently has better movie taste than you. That's not true.
It's not. It's factually not true.
It is just the fact that Al has not seen any Molly Ringwald. Wow, that did not.
No.
Those words didn't happen.
Nope.
You know what I'm trying to say. He
Ringwald.
hasn't seen. Yeah, he hasn't seen those films. And
That's
that's a crying shame. And I think that's a John Cryer shame.
That's what I was just going to say, but I was going to let you finish your thought.
I think we should binge those films, and we should just do a single John Hughes episode.
Hard pass.
I think that would be fun. We're going to do that. It's going to happen.
Hard pass.
Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. Now we're getting into Ninja Turtles territory. Go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, it didn't really seem to be on topic there. Yeah, so between the random leftovers, and I had some homemade breakfast sausage, I had some homemade French toast with challah bread. I had,
Halala.
no,
Challah
challah bread.
You gotta put the into it.
You do. I had a little bit of leftover black bean and corn salsa, whatever, with avocado and shit. It was good. And then we watched most of Tour de Pharmacy while setting up the episode.
There was a significant amount of that we watched.
Like 40 of the 45 minutes.
Yeah, right. That's funny.
But we're here.
So we are.
And we're going to record on a different movie that came out a few months ago.
We're going to do Passengers.
We're going to do... wait a... Just steamroll me, but...
Steamrolled. You're done.
I was going to say, we're going to do Passengers.
I just figured out how to scroll on your computer with the trackpad.
Can you actually do it? Because it defeated me
Two
for
fingers.
the longest time.
2 fingers, but you have the scroll the opposite the way that I had it, which is why I couldn't figure it out at first. But we're good. Passengers. Passengers came out 2016, not that long ago.
Was it November or something like that?
Yeah, it was.
December 21st.
There you go.
So,
plot of this film, something that I've been doing recently, is reading the plot off directly from IMDb, giving credit where credit is due. A spacecraft traveling to a distant colony planet and transporting thousands of people has a malfunction in its sleep chambers. As a result, 2 passengers are awakened 90 years later. Now, here's exactly where I want to start.
Before we start, can we stop?
We could.
They're awakened 90 years early, not 90 years later.
Did I say late? I just stopped looking at the screen.
You said 90 years later.
90 years early. Whatever.
Well,
we're diving right in. Here's the thing. That is what all of the marketing material, obviously this quick, like, 2-liner plot would have you believe. This movie was very different to me than what it was marketed to me as.
In some ways, yes. In other ways, no. I will say that this synopsis did a better job than the one... What was the one that we did recently that you were like... Baby Driver. Remember, you were like, this is basically not what the movie's about at all.
Right.
This did a much better job giving you a slice of what it was about.
So here's the thing. When you watch the trailers and the coming attractions of this movie, like, it would seem as if these 2 people wake up together out of thousands of people, and that there's some bigger kind of weird thing at play. Something not right.
They definitely marketed it as if there was some sort of conspiracy.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't get that. It is good. It ends up being better, in my opinion. I'm not going to go into it.
Well, it's like, because we're even getting to the point where we almost should say spoilers.
We're not going to. I'm not going to say what it is yet. I'm just saying.
Well, because if anyone hadn't seen it and are listening here,
no, that's fine. No, actually, this is important because I actually think that the plot that I was getting from the trailers would be reason that people wouldn't see it, because it just feels very generic. It's just like conspiracy. Okay, space movie, check. Right? conspiracy, check. Like just like they're just going through this list of like, let's take good things from movies that make them good and make our own. But there was something a little bit better going on in the plot here, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm going to stop there before going into spoilers.
Okay, that's fair. I would say, yeah, you're right. The way it was marketed more as a sci-fi thriller, and while there was thriller aspects to this movie, it's really more in the final act. It's much more a movie that's contemplative of the human experience and how we are and how we're perceived and how we perceive ourselves and what life would be like without the governing strictures of society.
Right.
While also realizing that on the back end, it's almost like if we examined Tom Hanks in Castaway, not his survival alone,
right,
but as if he had to worry in the back of his mind that at some point I'm gonna be saved, and people are gonna judge how I survived. Mm-hmm. Right? Did you kind of get what I'm saying with that?
Yeah.
And that was something I kind of picked up on, like, as I was thinking about the movie after watching it, realizing kind of there's a little bit of parallel between that, the whole thing of someone being, like, marooned alone, and one's pure struggle to survive, and the other one's struggle to survive, but also realizing that he's definitely going to be judged for how he survived at some point down the line, which is an interesting kind of curveball to that sort of trope.
It was. It's really well done. I thought going in, I was like, I'm gonna like this movie, and I thought that thinking what I had said previously about the plot, like I'll be fine with it. I'll still enjoy it. I love Chris Pratt. That's easy. Jennifer Lawrence, love her too. Like, this movie's gonna be good for me. I don't care. But then when it became what it actually is, which we will get into, just not just yet, I enjoyed it even more, and I'm very happy with where it went.
It's funny because when I first saw the very first, like, the teaser, I was intrigued. I was interested. I was like, okay, like, that looks like something that could be kind of cool. And then I saw more, and I started to hear stuff, and it really turned me off from the idea of watching it. And I read some stuff that were minorly spoiler for me, but I knew it going in, like, it wasn't like I made the choice to read. Because there was some social commentary surrounding the movie, and that's something actually I want to get into a little bit. It's gonna be kind of a touchy subject for us to talk about in general.
Okay.
Because there's an important social aspect, which I'm sure you know. I think we may have even briefly mentioned it a couple months ago, like not on air, just you and me were talking.
Yeah.
So I want to get into that a little bit, but by the time I finally... see, the funny thing is I thought you had already seen it. I remember you mentioned it a few times.
I've been wanting to see it for
do an episode on it. I thought you had already seen it, and that was why. So I finally was like... I just saw that it was going to be on one of the movie channels the other day, and I was like, well, I don't have time to sit down and watch it now, so I just hit the record thing. I actually forgot about it. And then the other night, I was just sitting down, and I brought up the list to see what I have on the DVR. I was like, oh yeah, I got time for that now. Let's sit down and watch it. And I ultimately ended up enjoying the movie. Definitely not perfect, but I liked it.
Yeah, I
liked a lot of things about it.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. And like I said, I did end up enjoying it more than I thought. I knew going in I was gonna like it, like I said, but I did come out of it thinking like I would watch this movie again. I was moved by a lot of things that happened in the movie.
Yeah,
and
you should feel some things during this movie.
Yeah, and that is a big credit to our two leading actors in the film.
Yeah. And also, I think to the people who made it too, there was some score stuff that they kind of properly nudged you in the right direction with the music, and there was writing and directing choices that definitely surprised me for like a big budget, like kind of quote unquote action movie.
Let's actually talk about that for a second.
We looked up for 2 seconds before we started.
Right before we started, we looked up the writer and director of this film, and
because we realized that we didn't know who directed it.
Right. For the director, it's Morton Tildum, I believe is how you would pronounce his name.
He's Norwegian, so that's going to have to be good enough.
He's the director of The Imitation Game. Now, did you see that?
Which I loved.
It was fantastic.
I've seen that movie 15 times.
It's tremendous.
Which is incredible because the movie came out like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
It's been on the movie channels a lot. I saw it in theaters when it came out. It was what I was rooting for Best Picture and everything at the time it came out.
Respectable.
And I didn't realize it was the same guy. I realized it was weird for that movie, like how invested in that movie was that one that I actively was rooting for to win, and that I didn't know who directed it.
Right.
I love that movie. Plus, I learned a shit ton from it.
It was excellent. And then on what coincides right with that was the writer of this film, John Spates.
Sure, why not?
Is that how you would say that? Writer of Doctor Strange, which is there's there's a connection there, right?
Or one
for
of them,
you,
at least.
right? With Cumberbatch.
It's true.
Which is kind of cool. I didn't realize that these two were involved in the movie. I didn't know much about them prior to looking them up. Right before we started. He wrote Prometheus, Passengers, Doctor Strange.
I'm looking at it now.
Yeah.
The New Mummy. He's had a bit of a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
2 good movies, 2 not good movies.
Yeah, fair. But yeah, so that's kind of cool. Anyway, just wanna bring those people up. I wanna get into the movie. And I want to talk about. There's a lot of things that I want to talk about. And there's I feel like for each topic, half of it you can talk about without going into spoilers, but it would just be very broken up. So we're going in. So at this point, going forward, if you haven't seen the movie and you are interested, see this movie.
Yeah, no, it's good, and it's made its way. It's on Redbox.
It's accessible. You can
get it. It's not. You don't have to go looking too far. It's on the movie channels.
So I had mentioned, the movie is not what I thought it was going to be.
I was going to say
going into that right away.
I was going to say we have to go because you can't. Most of the things we're talking about in this movie are in some way tied to plot.
Absolutely.
So,
and the biggest reveal in this movie when I'm watching it is that when the movie starts off and you're on this ship and the ship is floating through space and it's going to this destination, they hit an asteroid field. One of the pods opens up. One of the pods, not 2. 1. I was marketed this movie that both of these pods open at the same time.
See, it's funny.
One of them opened.
We're in spoiler territory at this point. There's a lot to unpack in that right now.
Yeah.
1, I was...
You unpack that while I just indulge in this beer.
You really like it.
It's so good.
You're drinking it.
You're going to have to hold on to yours because I'm going to steal it from you.
Slide it quietly farther away from you. Because it was yelled at for sliding it across the table.
That's fine.
I was sold on it, seeming like it was some sort of conspiracy that the two of them woke up.
Absolutely.
We find out in the first 90 seconds that it's not a conspiracy. At least that Chris Pratt away. Because there's a real technical thing. You watch the asteroid field happen, you watch the systems rebalance, you watch the whole thing happen, you understand why his pod opens. It's like, okay, we got the answer to that mystery really quick. So something else with the whole thing... There's something I realized, the way that they shot, or the way that they mixed that trailer up. In the trailer, you see Andy Garcia leading a group of people walking through a door with purpose. Mm-hmm. That's in the final 90 seconds of the movie. So it looked, and the way they're walking through and the way the music's playing in the trailer, it looks like people are going to war in that fucking ship. Like they're fighting over control of the goddamn ship.
Yeah.
Literally could not have been any farther from the truth. And we've talked in the past about trailers lying to you.
Yeah. This is a different breed, though.
It's almost manipulative.
Yeah.
Which kind of annoys me, but also may have enhanced slightly my viewing of the movie.
I think it did. I definitely think it did for me, because I went in expecting something, and I got something way better than what I had set out to watch.
Which, that's what I'm saying, because it exceeded that, is a positive, but also I don't like being outright lied to by the trailer. Sure. And then there's also the whole thing of, so we find out that he's the one pod awoken. Now, I was aware, I speculated for a while that there was going to be something to do with how he was open, she was open. I had a feeling that was where it was going well before the movie came out. Before I saw the movie, I had that spoiled for me, but it didn't bother me because I was already pretty heavily assuming it at that point.
Right.
And understanding that the nature of his loneliness being what... That was not a surprise to me. If I was experiencing it for the first time without it having spoiled to me, it would not have been even close to a surprise to me. But I was thrown by the fact that I saw a bunch of people in the trailer, then I was hearing, it's just the two of them the entire movie, and I was like, well, someone's lying, because even if it's not much, we see a bunch of people walking around on the ship. So it's clearly not only them. Now, obviously, we're like at 95% just the two of them, or just the one of them, whatever. When we go into it a little bit later, there's something I want to talk about with the final act of the movie when they're trying to go through this stuff. But I don't want to talk about it yet. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just like that whole thing of like, oh, I was sold on one thing, and then it was we find out like there's like 3 major swings in how you looked at it. That was how I interpreted it. I don't know if there might have even been more for you. Mm-hmm. Was there any like more weird swings to that?
As we go through the movie, we'll get into it. It's just like I can only say like I didn't know what I was. I thought I knew what I was getting into, but I didn't, and that's the beauty of it. And I love where it came out, and I will. This is rewatchable for me. I'm okay with a movie that is so excellent that I wouldn't put in again. I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. This is not that movie. I would watch this movie again. I thoroughly enjoyed it because there's a lot to this movie. There's the movie itself. I mean, if it's just the plot and whatever, then maybe it's only a one-time watch. The performances in this movie make this movie rewatchable.
Definitely.
Chris Pratt, Andy Dwyer, right? That's who the first thing that comes to mind when I think of him, and that is I love him so much for that because he's so funny.
I know. I love that show.
Hysterical.
It was funny that because since we both watch a lot of movies and a lot of TV shows, it's funny when one of us loves whatever property and tries to get the other to watch something. And that was one that I had watched 3 times through before you really got into the meat of the show.
Absolutely.
And I remember watching you growing to love Andy or growing to love Ron or whatever on that show. Like that's one that sticks out for me,
Absolutely. But here's the thing though. You get him alone for 30 minutes, the first 30 minutes of the movie about.
Well, it's him alone and or him with Michael Sheen,
which we're gonna have to talk about. We'll get to him, but
twice we've talked about Michael Sheen briefly in the last couple of weeks.
He's an android. Effectively, he is alone for 30 minutes of the movie, acting on his own, and it is insane. The emotion that he takes you through. You're laughing, you are feeling for him, you're scared for him, everything. Like you go through the whole, you run the gamut. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it's. If he needs to audition for a role, it's like just send them this first 30 minutes because he can clearly do anything. Yeah. That's how I feel. Like he has made his way to the very top of my favorite actors lists, and he's locked in now with this film.
It's funny because I saw bits in this movie of all of his roles, but that's probably because you focus on him so much. Mm-hmm. There is the Andy kind of slapstick humor. Yep. Way toned down, but you see bits of that. I even see bits of him.
And sometimes not, whether it's a smirk or some other physical acting.
Considering he wasn't stupid like Andy was, it's toned down.
Right.
There's bits of him in Moneyball, the kind of quiet, unsure, I don't know how to handle this situation. Yeah. There's the bravado that you got from him in Jurassic World, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's bits of all of those roles in this performance, which I thought was kind of cool, that where it's I can see the growth, and it's funny how many things, even knowing that he was really, what he's famous for, what he cut his teeth on was Parks and Rec, and he was on there for a long time, and the show started in 2009 or 2010. But I just stumbled on him on him in a bit role in something recently that was before those. Moneyball was at around the same time as when those came out, and he had a decent bit of a role, and he was in some other things, I guess, kind of back then. But the earliest role I've seen him in, I happened to catch 10 minutes of Wanted.
Oh, right.
He's the one his girlfriend's cheating on him with, who he works with.
Uh-huh.
And
wow, that's funny.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was him. I was watching it and I was like, they got into... Yeah, I know what you're looking at. I was watching it and I was like, it comes to a scene where he's fully into his training and he's... James McAvoy's fully into his training and he's starting to push back and he's winning in fighting and stuff like that, and he's learning and he's gaining confidence, and he has to go back to his apartment, his old apartment, to get the gun that was left in there or whatever. Yep. Angelina Jolie. Yeah, it just flowed right off the tongue. And he walks in.
It's those damn Citra hops.
It's the Citra hops. Get you every time. No, it's the urethra hops.
Yeah, those urethra hops.
Yeah. Wow. And the girlfriend's yelling at him, or he opens the door, and it was like was like, I feel like the guy who's in the scene is someone, but I don't remember who it is. When you open the door, I was like, oh my god, it's Chris Pratt!
Yeah. That's great. So you get so like I said, you get his range of acting in this first, like I feel like everything that he can do, or you need to do as an actor, he was able to pull off in that 30 minutes. When there's the scene where he goes out onto the rim of the ship, and he jumps off, and he's tethered, and he comes back in, and then he goes through, he sheds a tear, rolls down his face, and it's beautiful. And then he goes inside, and he takes the suit off, and he stands in the airlock, and he's about to open it again. He's going to kill himself.
Which, real design flaw.
That you could just do that?
Yes.
Yeah, agreed.
That was something that, in the moment when I was watching it, broke immersion for me, because there was a few things where I was like, okay, like some obstacles that he, like, that seems unrealistic. But then there was other things I was like, that seems like a normal failsafe. The reason why that would stop him. The fact that he was able to walk into the airlock without any sort of suit and pull the airlock thing.
Very strange.
Huge design flaw.
Yeah, especially when everything else is like so perfect or
yes.
whatever. Right. But here's
I'm
what
just saying
made...
it broke immersion for me. Like,
I completely agree. I get that. But what saves it is his acting in this scene. Because...
No, I didn't have a problem with that. It was just... It was the technical aspect.
Yeah, we're gonna get to the technical aspect, but because when he's ready to, like, he's about to kill himself, and you're like, you feel so bad for him in this moment. Like, he is completely and utterly alone.
Oh, definitely no.
Right?
And you're like, watching his hand hover over the ship.
You're like,
I'm like, I get it.
Hit that button. I agree with.
I get it.
Like, you know, like,
whether you agree with it or not, it's
sorry.
Just like, I get it.
Yeah,
I can say.
Now, I think what could have made that scene even better is if there were a failsafe in place. Yes. And he hits the button and it doesn't open, and he just breaks the fuck down. Like, I feel like that would...
I don't know if it would be better, but I'm interested by it.
I want to... Yeah, I'm curious.
Like, I wouldn't have necessarily hated it.
I don't hate it. I think I think his acting trumps the issue with... If
they had shot that either way, I was kind of... Well, again, for me, I was like, there's no way this is allowed.
There's another flaw in that room.
When they were doing it, I was like... He's going to end up doing it, it's not going to work, right? Because we have common sense, and like we're not just going to let someone without a suit in an open... It wasn't even like the airlock... You know, it would have been one thing if the airlock door behind him closed first and locked. Then I would have got it. But it was just open to the ship.
Oh, that I didn't notice.
I think.
That I didn't know. I just thought you meant the fact that, like, it could detect that he was in the room, so he shouldn't have...
It should have been able to detect it. It should have been able to detect that all the suits were still in there.
Right, yeah.
All of
that I get.
But I think that the door, like, I don't...
that would be a problem. I didn't realize that the door was open. I didn't think it was. But there was another flaw in that room, and we'll get to that later. Okay. I wrote it down so that I won't forget, but we'll talk about it, like, down the road when we get towards the end of the movie.
My notes are a little bit more sparse.
But that's fine. So
I wish we caught that on air.
You get what?
Our conversation, but the notes.
Yeah, that was beautiful. What did you even say? I said, I've got some good notes.
Yeah, you're like, I have a bunch of good notes. And I said, I have notes.
Al's ale
almost went spewing out of his mouth and nose.
It did come out of my nose.
That explains the tears.
Yeah, there was a little bit of tear, and there was a little bit of beer in the nostrils. Stings the nostrils, as it were. So you get Chris Pratt's range of acting there, and here's what's immediately apparent to me. He is one hysterical human being. He's very funny. Mm-hmm. I want to see Vince Gilligan use him in something.
Okay. I mean, he might be too big now.
I don't care. Let's get Vince Gilligan up there, then.
Although, you just bringing that up in our conversations and all that just reminded me, I told you earlier that I started watching Curb Your Enthusiasm tonight. Mm-hmm. The third episode of that show, if you know anything about the show, for anyone who hasn't watched it, I'm not doing too big of a spoiler here, because it was very early in the show, and that show started almost, 15 years ago?
That was a long time ago. We're beyond the statute of limitations for spoilers.
So, the episode starts with him having to call back someone who he forgot to call back, Larry David.
Okay.
And he accidentally dials the number right below it, and he dials someone that he's an acquaintance with, Gil. He's played golf with him a few times.
Okay.
And his wife asks, like, well, who is Gil? I don't like. Why is his name even in like the phone book or whatever? Oh yeah, I played a handful of rounds of golf with him. I kind of got roped in while I was on the phone to you and me are going to go to a party. He's really insistent on us going to a party at their house. Well, who is this Gil? I don't even heard of Gil. Who's Gil? Like, what does he do? He used to be a porn star. And the big reveal for me was when he goes to his house and who opens the door? But Bob Odenkirk.
Oh my god.
Playing former porn star Gil Bang. Oh, and by the way, at the end of the episode,
so good.
They made a porno with Bob Odenkirk in it.
Oh my god. I've been on the top. I mean,
you see tits and everything. They made a porno with Bob Odenkirk in it.
Great.
It was fucking hysterical.
I know we're like off topic.
We're way off topic, but you said Vince Gilligan.
This is our
talk
show.
about adding a comedian in.
We can go as far off
I went
topic
to
as we want.
Bob Odenkirk, and I went to the fact that I saw him tonight in Curb Your Enthusiasm as a porn star.
Bob Odenkirk has a cameo in a lot of episodes of a handful of episodes of How I Met Your Mother, which I have been rewatching.
He's in one episode of Arrested Development.
In the background, he's just so I love him.
Oh, he's great.
He's fantastic.
Well, I told you that I off and on when I have nothing to watch, like streaming wise,
Show.
I watch Mr. Show,
Yeah.
and him and David Cross together are fucking hysterical.
It's fun. Yeah. Anyway, back to
Chris Pratt and being used
Chris
in
Pratt used by Vince Gilligan would be quite nice. What shall we tackle next?
I don't know. You had more bullet points than I did.
I can continue.
If you want to,
We go right into it. What happens next in the movie?
Well, I was saying we could do that, or the other thing was because I was talking about the immersion breaking thing. I had a note about cool physics, both of theory and application. So,
Sure.
Which way do you want to go? You want to go with this, or you want to go with the
I'm intrigued.
Well, I mean, it's just going to be kind of freeform. I just put it down because there was a few times during the course of the movie where I was like, "That's cool," or "I've seen that paralleled in a different sci-fi property," or "This is an expansion on something like that," or "That's not how physics works."
Right.
Because that's how I watch a lot of movies.
That can't happen. Right.
As you well know, because both movies we've talked about or movies we've seen together, I have an issue when things just break physics.
Here, let me jump in real quick. This is not a mechanics-based thing for me. Science thing. I've seen a lot of movies. The first R-rated movie that I saw was Terminator 2. Okay? When the little Roomba couldn't get into its hole, I was like, this is where we need to focus. This fucking thing is going to kill us all.
Yes. Well, so it's funny because we could probably do an entire episode on just the science of this fucking movie. That was one of them, like where there was a couple times where it was like, now obviously he doesn't know. This is one of the first things we figure out of him when he wakes up is he doesn't know how he woke up. He doesn't know what causes, and the diagnostics weren't really working that well when he did figure out that was a thing that he could look at. And he's super handy. He's a mechanic. He can do things with his hands. Seems like he had a little bit of working knowledge with the computers and stuff like that, but mostly it was his ability to read the manuals and take shit apart and rewire it and stuff like that, which was
an engineer,
cool. But he should have been paying more attention to that. The Roombas exploding. And crashing and not working. Because it was going on over the course of like 2 years or something like that. Most of the movie took place over like almost 2 years.
Yeah. And within that time span, like 16 of them, I think, in the end, it was like 16
Well, it started to accelerate.
Yeah.
It wasn't so many... Like, it was none, really. It was like that one little thing where it was just having trouble. And then it fixed itself and it was fine. And then to the point where he was waking her up, it was you could see it was becoming more common. It was definitely a thing that was growing. And this is something I was saying before, like where it was like, we're talking about plot being tied in. And also our expectations of the movie based on the marketing material and what was going on and stuff like that. You're expecting kind of a conspiracy. And once we figured out mechanical failure, and you start to realize we see more than he sees.
Yeah. I was going to ask you what you thought about that.
I kind of liked it. I thought it was pulled off well here. I have mixed feelings on it in general.
I think it was okay.
There's been some movies and shows where I've really liked it. There's been some where I was like, you're kind of spoiling too much for us. I thought it was good.
Here's why I think it works in this movie. They show you, early on in the film, you see them hit the asteroids, you see an issue, then you see this big motherfucker that's about to hit them, and you're like, oh shit, things are going to get real. And then throughout the movie, you're getting glimpses of the main computer showing where things are breaking down or malfunctioning. You see it as the viewer, the actors don't see it. I think that's important because it rules out, like, this isn't the conspiracy that they sold us in the trailer.
I'll take it one step further. I liked it because they showed you what but not why. Mm-hmm. The fact that you were seeing, okay, an asteroid is causing an issue. But why is the asteroid causing an issue?
Right.
We don't know. Okay, systems are shutting down. Why are they shutting down? I don't know yet. The diagnostics aren't working. Things are blowing up. The power has gone out. Okay, these are all problems. Why? We don't know yet. It was showing us we know more than the character, so it builds our sense of impending doom and suspense, but it doesn't spoil.
Right.
So that is a good
use of
functional tactic for the movie. That's why I like it in this one as opposed to some other properties I've seen it in. I think that's a good way to give you something that's like lets you in on the secret, but not the whole secret. You know what I mean? But something that I thought was kind of a problem is he should have been able to start realizing that there was stuff going on before. The fact that the diagnostics weren't working should have been using up more of his bandwidth earlier on in the movie. Because he figured that out early on. He just kind of brushed it off to the side. And we see processes failing and stuff like that, and he kind of just ignores them mostly. It's like, other than to say, "Oh, that was weird," and then he kind of moves on. But the thing that I really like, I know when we move past, when we know it's not a conspiracy anymore, but we're trying to figure out. It's to the point where, okay, we've seen the things that are breaking down, and now we have to start figuring out why. I was pretty sure it was, and I realized that I don't, even though they kept saying each other by their like 1 or 2 or 3 names, like the whole time. Michael Sheen's android character, Arthur. That's Arthur. It. I was like, I knew it was something with an A, but I couldn't think of what it was. I was sure that Arthur's was learning and that he was chewing up too much processing power, and that was what the power draw was.
That would be kind of cool.
I thought that was going to be kind of cool.
That would be really cool.
Not that he was necessarily becoming evil,
no,
but that he was becoming sentient, because that's something that if you look at in sci-fi and in real life, not just sci-fi, we know how much power microprocessors and computers have drawn now as opposed to when they were first invented. The cooling systems that we need to keep them from the silicon from bursting into flames, and more powerful processors and computers, more and more power draw. It's exponential to the point of absurdity what a virtual intelligence and a full-on artificial intelligence would have for that. So I was wondering if this was going to turn into a story where Arthur was gaining consciousness.
I would say that would probably be a twist that I had no idea was coming.
That's what I was anticipating once Lawrence Fishburne's been awoken, and we realize that there's power draw failures, and that's why the power system fails, and that's why the pods had failed and everything like that. I was assuming Arthur was learning and his consciousness was achieving such greater growth that I thought that that's what because there was a runaway system they couldn't diagnose. I thought that's what it was going to be. Not that Arthur was going evil, but just that his actualizing as an actual conscious being was going to be drawing. I thought that could have been a cool thing, especially because
that's definitely cool.
We were growing to enjoy Arthur. And now what the story really was with the punctured hole, that was cool too.
Yeah.
And it gave a real problem for them to solve. It's just not where I thought it was going. That seemed too conventional and mundane.
Right. It's funny because it's like that would have been like a more sci-fi movie, right? Where this is, although it's like, if you take yourself and you remove yourself from our current set of technology and put yourself in the year where they're able to do this, the majority of the movie is grounded in reality.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool.
But we have an android. So to think of him as becoming a true AI,
it's great.
Seems like
I like that. That's cool.
A normal thing, and ultimately the whole idea of meteor punctured hole kind of boring. It's
if you think about
like a smaller scale version of the Titanic. We've seen that story.
Sure.
You know,
it's funny. So, speaking of, was it Michael Sheen?
Yes.
Arthur. What a cool little character that's just like constantly like he's like this. It's almost like he's always at like one spot that you could focus on the movie. It's almost like he's like a safety blanket for them.
Yes,
like throughout the movie.
He absolutely was that. Yes,
and when it's so heartbreaking.
Oh, I knew it was coming too. From the first conversation.
Well, which one? Oh, when he was going to tell her.
Yes. Yeah. But from the first conversation that he has with him, he says, I'm a good bartender. I can give you advice. I can keep your secrets. I was like, that's how it's gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. But when he, I forget what Jim. What does he ask him? He asks him a question. I can't remember what it was, but he can't answer it, and it's like
the very first.
He locks him into like a state of like he basically
and that's
breaks
part of what built me into the idea of him being the runaway process.
Right.
That was part of it. Is he didn't have the power or the knowledge to do that at the time, but we've seen that he's become so integral and he's understanding them as we go along. That's why, in my mind, that's
cool.
Where that was going.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
He didn't even realize he was learning, but he was. Because we realize he's not just a simple VI interface because he remembers conversations. Mm-hmm. He acquires his own personality in relation to these two characters. We see over conversations they have over the course of a year. He remembers things that Jim, his name was Jim, right?
Yeah.
Says to him, and he asks him about it. Like, when he's thinking about awakening Aurora, I find the most beautiful girl, but I can't do it. And he goes, you're right. That does sound like a difficult decision.
Yeah.
And then later on, so how are you on your decision to...
Yeah.
It's like,
right.
That's real personality there.
Yeah,
You know, even if it's not a real full consciousness, it's close. Mm-hmm. So that's why it worked for me in like thinking that.
I could definitely see that. That's a cool take on it.
But I liked, for even beyond just liking the character and liking all that, I really liked Michael Sheen in that role. Mm-hmm. We talked about him a little bit with the 7 Days in Hell, him playing the ridiculous reporter Caspian Wint or whatever his name was, or Casper Wint or whatever it was.
Sport.
With the creepy obsession with Kit Harington's character.
So ridiculous.
Because he was great in this, and you were talking about the question was, he says something, he says, I woke up, I shouldn't be awake, and he's like, he goes, my pot opened. He goes, oh, that's not possible. And he goes, well, how many years have we been traveling for? 30. How many more years do we have to go? 90 or whatever.
Right.
Well, I'm here talking to you.
And he glitches. He twitches. He goes out.
It's not possible for you to be here.
Which I love that. I love that scene because it like for a small amount of time, Chris Pratt has somebody to talk to, and it's just so not a person, and it's devastating. Yeah. It's like it's horrible.
Well, even just when he runs over to him and he talks to him and he's talking to him, and then he looks over the bar and sees that he doesn't have legs and is like, fuck.
Right. Yeah. Oh, my God. So the real, I guess, conspiracy of the movie being that Jim's character opens Aurora's pod.
Yes.
It's because he is... The first time he sees her is when he was about to kill himself, and he doesn't do it, and he runs back into the room of all the passengers, and he trips on a bottle, and he stands up and he sees her, and he thinks she's beautiful, and he goes through this whole series of, like, looking into her background and reading her work, and, like, basically speaking with her and spending time with her, like, just to have some sort of human connection with somebody, but she's still asleep, so it doesn't... It's not really what he's looking for. It's like putting a Band-Aid on it for now. Yeah. And then he eventually opens her pod.
Yep. After...
In our Adam and Eve story.
Yes.
Right. And it's really difficult because what's so good is when he was about to kill himself and you really feel for him in that scene, as much as you hate him for what he's about to do, you're still so sad about him.
Yeah.
And, like, you get it. You get all the decisions that are made in the movie.
You can be screaming, fuck you, don't do it. But still, once he's done it, you can hate him and you can be like, yeah, dude, why would you ever do this? But you know why.
And he does that so very well to himself in the mirror.
No matter how much you hate it, even if it makes you feel dirty for the fact that you understand it, you know that deep down you understand it.
Yeah. And, like, he has that inner struggle in the miror. He's
for months.
He looks at himself and he goes...
Don't do it.
Please don't do this.
Yeah, he does. That's right.
He asks. Did that give me chills?
Please don't do this.
Yeah. that was just a tremendous scene. And then
so that, I mean, I guess we could take, I don't know how brief or not brief it'll be of an aside. I was saying the whole idea of, like, some gray area and it's complicated and stuff like that. So around the time of the movie, I guess it was maybe a week after the movie came out. I didn't see it. I just saw it a couple weeks ago, and it's been out for about 6 months or 7 months, whatever it is. I read this big long-form article or story or blog post. I forget exactly. I don't remember who it was because I read it in December, so I just don't remember at this point. But I'm sure if you did some clever searching on Google, you probably can find it. Because I actually saw it because it was shared on Facebook or Twitter or something like that by someone like that I know. So you could find it. They tackled the idea why it was so complicated even more than just what's presented in the movie, the idea of him awakening her from her pod. And I found that I was really confused and irritated by the experience of reading the article and then watching the movie, because the core tenet of this article was, in the movie she says, "You murdered me." And this even further extrapolated that. I'm sure they referenced the fact that it was kind
I just want to pause for 1 second. One of my notes down here is just murder.
Yeah.
And so we were thinking about this. Go on.
And she's right when she says that, right? And she's right and righteous, and she has every reason to be as upset as anyone could be about anything. It's weird to say "you murdered me" because she's still alive.
Yep.
And will be for quite some time, most likely, assuming, at the time she didn't know the ship was going to blow up someday. But she's right. He essentially murdered her, even though she's still alive. And
more like she was wrongfully put on death row.
Sure.
In a weird way.
Okay.
Go on. I think I know where you're going with
so
this. So
the topic of this article actually was even further than that. It was actually comparing it even more to rape.
Okay.
Because he did it to her against her will and completely removed her agency. Which I agree with.
Yep.
What I didn't agree with was what, especially at the time when I read it, it was like, this was actually one of the reasons I didn't want to see the movie. Was once I read this story, because the way that it was, the quote-unquote facts were presented in the story, made it wasn't just upset with the action and what was portrayed, it was how the movie viewed it. And what they were putting as a presupposition for all of this was that the movie just kind of glossed over that he did all of this. I'm looking at your face, and that was the exact same way I felt after I actually watched the movie. Because the whole thing was like, he apologizes, and then she ends up going on and getting back with him, even after a period of time of separation, and she says, "Fuck you," and all this sort of stuff, and all this righteous anger. And how the movie glosses over that when he did this to her, and I was like, okay, yeah, that does sound really shitty. Like, that's a good reason to not like this movie if like you saw it and you felt like that way about. So that was kind of the reason I was resistant in watching it, and then I sat down and watched it. And I was like, yep, okay, this is as shitty as they were saying. He wakes her up against her will. He murdered and/or raped her life, we'll say, not physically, but like her life. She removed her agency, and you're right about that. That is really, really as low as you can go, is as low a way as you can treat another person. But then I watched her go through her thing with the anger, and I watched his anguish and guilt once he had made the decision. And then the surprise where we get Lawrence Fishburne for a while, and he goes through the process and figures out, and Jim confesses to him. He reads the logs and realizes that, yes, it's so, that he woke her up. And then he talks to her, and he says, I understand the situation. And he confirms to her that she has every right and reason to feel this way. And Jim's tried to apologize for like a year or something like that, right? They kind of got hazy with the timeline at that point. Once it was a year until he woke her up. Right. And it was a year-ish until she found out, not until the time where the ship starts.
Right.
So she has her separation. She rages against him. She punishes him. She almost murders him in his sleep. She beats the shit out of him. And all of these things seem just to me. That she has every right to feel those ways and do those things.
That scene was intense.
It was.
When she beats the crap out of him.
And he...
Well, I actually want to pause you
surrenders.
For 1 second, because that scene is very much tied to something else. And I don't want to gloss over this. It's very important.
Yeah.
I was talking about his acting, because earlier he's the first person we see in the movie. She's phenomenal in this movie. She's unreal. And she's great in everything that she's in, Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah.
But when she finds out and like I know already, and I feel like I'm finding out for the first time, and I'm like she's like, I can't see. I'm like, yeah, I feel blind too. Like I totally get it. It's unbelievable how well she delivers that entire experience. But I'm sorry, go on. I just had to bring that out there.
And so even to that scene where she's beating him up, and I forget what she picked up. She had a crowbar. And he puts his arms to the side, and he gives in. He says, "Go ahead, I deserve it." He knows he deserves it. Kill me because you can't make me feel worse than I already feel.
Right.
So having watched all of those, total of all this stuff, I'm wondering how this person who wrote this thing missed the mark so badly, finishing off the story, because everything on the front end of how the idea of rape and or murder, the removal of agency, the betrayal and violation of another person's life, I totally agree with all that, and I totally agree with that's how it was represented in the movie. But I feel like they completely missed the mark on the back end where, and you could say you wouldn't forgive him, and that's fine, that's your own, you're welcome to it. If you said, I could never forgive him for that, I'm not going to say you're wrong. I probably wouldn't either.
Right, and to that point, they give you a point at the end of the movie where you could go one of two ways.
Yes.
If you didn't forgive him, you'd get in the pod.
Yes.
If you did forgive him, you don't get in the pod.
And she doesn't get
in the pod. She does
not
get in the pod. But go on.
What I don't understand is they're saying, well, they glossed it over and it just ends up, she just kind of shrugs her arms and says, oh, well, no big deal. How did you get that out of watching this movie?
Yeah, I didn't.
With her righteous anger that he gives into, his apologizing this and that, and you can say the apology wasn't enough, but the fact is, and it could just be because he's a good actor, as we've discussed, you see real anguish on his face as he apologizes over and over again. Lawrence Fishburne confirms she's right to feel the way she is, that under different circumstances, he would be treated accordingly, put in the brig, and or executed, and put on trial. And after all of that, he makes that final gesture, like you just said, I'll put you back in the pod and restore to you what I've robbed you of.
Yeah.
And she makes the conscious choice with having had all this time to not to do it. So I don't understand how you can say that this movie represented it in a way that glosses over her pain and her violation.
I actually think that was one of the stronger parts of the movie.
Yes! Well, after I watched it, I was like, I don't know how you can handle it better.
Yeah, and she, again, I don't know that anybody else could have handled it better because she did it so well.
And you can disagree with her choice, but it was real and it was earned.
So here's my thing with that. There's a series of reasons why somebody may have written this article that you're talking about or taken this approach. The first thing that comes to mind is they were on their phone when the movie was on.
Possible.
That's one.
Possible.
The second thing, not to be glossed over, is that somebody close in their life has experienced something along those lines.
Possible.
And honestly, if that's how, if it stirs up those, I totally get it.
Yes.
Those are two things. I'm sure there's others. With this day and age, I assume that it's the first one. But
it's like a shitty thing to do. And I don't want to gloss over the fact that other people who have been violated or been close to someone who's violated may feel that no apology or no treatment of it anything is enough. But the point is, if we live in a world where reconciliation is even possible, this was handled as well as it can be. Right. And even if you disagree with the choice, which you're welcome to disagree with the choice, I totally get why you would disagree with the choice, and you shouldn't be looked down on for disagreeing with the choice. I have a problem with the way that this person represented the way that the movie represented the situation.
Right.
That's where my issue is.
Yeah. You cut this movie short. Let's say you cut it in half, and she fucking kills him with that crowbar. Right?
Justified.
She kills him with it. You're like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, get
right?
it.
She does, like you look at her character, like she's gonna go through some shit now because she's obviously taking somebody's life is, and so and if we could see him in the afterlife, he'd be like looking down, like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Like it's intense. There's a lot going on. At the end of the
movie, if she'd gotten in the pod, you could feel bad for him that he has to return to this isolation, and you could feel like the shitty, but you couldn't get mad at her for making the choice.
No.
I totally get her making the choice either way.
Yep.
Because both options felt earned.
Yeah.
He made the betrayal that it was the taste of betrayal. You fucking whore.
It was a taste of betrayal.
He made the betrayal. Sorry, we got really dark and serious. I had to lighten it a little bit. The betrayal was enough that if she gets in the pod, you can't begrudge her.
Right.
But the anguish and
it was the taste of betrayal.
You fucking whore.
You fucking whore.
But the anguish and the sincerity of the apology and the earned connection the two of them had made it that her choice to stay out of the pod was justified as well. And that's as even as you can deal with this. And that's why I said this movie is a contemplative character study. Either choice feels earned. And that's why I felt satisfied with the way the movie represented it, even if you disagree with the choice. And that's why that article irritated me.
Yeah.
Because it represented it in a way that was completely one-sided and missed the point of it all.
Right.
And maybe there was something that happened in that person's life, so I can get it.
And that's the thing. Like, if that is the case, I get it.
I get it. It's just
I understand.
Without that context, because there was nothing about that context where there was never a point in the story where it was like something. Not that she was on a spaceship that she was looking from a medically induced coma, but no sort of violation on her own part. Like, I just don't get it.
No,
With that missing that context, it seems like you're missing the point.
I totally agree. So let's get into the characters in this film.
Okay.
Of which I count 5. Can you name the 5 characters that I am talking about?
Are they all human or humanoid?
No.
Okay. Well, because...
Rattle them off real quick.
There's Aurora.
Uh-huh.
We haven't actually said her name yet.
We haven't?
We just called her Jennifer
Well,
Lawrence.
we're definitely going to get into her because I feel like she has some really interesting...
And we've got there a little bit with
Yeah.
stuff. I apologize if there was any tone issues with the way I was tackling the stuff about the structure of this movie and the way that some of the themes were dealt with. There's Jim. Mm-hmm. There's Arthur.
Yep.
There's considering I don't have my computer in front of me, Lawrence Fishburne.
Gus.
Who's Gus. There we go.
Yep.
I honestly couldn't remember his name. Is Roomba going to be the 5th character?
The ship.
Okay,
The ship is character
I
number
figured that was
5.
a chance.
This ship is a dick. The entire movie.
Hey, it's not its fault.
The ship's the villain.
Kind of. Well, I mean, like, time and space are its villain.
The ship's the villain.
Okay.
Here's why.
Loser.
No, there's just I think it's so cool because like the ship will like it has these interactions with the character throughout the movie in different ways, and it will.
By the way,
throw things on.
We
its
talked
head.
about the Roomba a little bit when we talked about Arthur. How about the French waiter robots?
Those were hilarious,
Right?
And the Mexican one,
Yes.
which is great.
But they did the French restaurant a couple times.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, just in general.
It's fantastic.
The themed.
I really.
Restaurant
It was
robots.
basically like it was like an all-inclusive resort
But
on with robots.
Weird
It was
robots.
really silly.
But the ship character.
The ship, yeah. The ship is a dick. Like, and all the extensions of the ship. So, like, yeah, it's malfunctioning. I get it. You were hit by an asteroid. I get it.
Like a big one.
But there's a scene where she pushes somebody out of the way. Aurora pushes. I think she pushes Gus out of the way. Now, Gus, as we know,
He had a raw deal.
He meets his untimely demise.
It was a fucked up way to go.
But he almost died a lot sooner. When one of the air robots, the drones just came crashing down, like right where he was standing.
Is that like the 16th one?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Another scene being, here's a funny one for me. Like this is where like the ship I feel like showed character in a really funny way. The scene where he's going to open the hatch from the outside. He's talking to her.
Wait, you were laughing at the end when he almost got fried to death?
No, not that point. That was moving. No, it was before that.
You said when he went out there to open the hatch.
Yeah, it was right. Exactly.
It was the most dire sequence of the whole
No, it was right when he went out. So she's looking at him, he's looking at her. Like she's looking at him, and she says something. I forget what it was. Like, come back to me. I believe was the line, or something along those lines.
She said it at some point.
And then he turns around to look at her, and the door just closed in his face. This ship is a dick. I was like, this is really, you're just a real jerk. And the door wouldn't stay open. That's not science. That's the ship being an asshole. No, it's not. The ship was another one of my favorite scenes. In the kitchen or the cafeteria. I loved when it malfunctioned and it was just shooting cornflakes all over the place. That was silly to me.
Projectile vomiting cornflakes.
But what I really, really loved was not only was this guy alone for a year, he found some ways to work around some of the lackluster parts of him being...
Couldn't get around the cafeteria.
No. So when he's finally eating breakfast with her, and she's got this delicious-looking omelet and all this...
Oatmeal.
And it's like a brick of oatmeal?
Gruel.
Yeah, and he's just like biting into it, and she goes... he says something like he's not a gold star, whatever it does, passenger.
Yeah, I'm not a gold star passenger member, whatever.
And she goes, oh my god. Because in that moment, with no other words, you know that she realized that he's been not only awake
alone
for over a year alone,
and...
but he's been eating this smut, just garbage food. And she brings him his own tray of food.
Doesn't she say something snarky too about like, oh my god, you found a way to work around all the other things, but you couldn't figure out. Like, she even says something to that effect,
I believe
too.
so.
And not so many words.
But I love that he's clicking every button on the coffee machine.
Sorry, you are not a gold. Sorry,
you are not like large coffee. Can I get some cream with that? Great. And it just comes out black, and he's just not happy.
It's like the scene. Funny enough, considering we were watching Austin Powers in the original one when they wake him up. Evacuation complete.
So we got the chips, and so Lawrence Fishburne. I feel like I'm saving Jennifer Lawrence for the end. But Lawrence Fishburne's character, real raw deal. And here's something interesting. I didn't want to believe it, and I'm glad that it wasn't the truth. There was something about the way that they delivered the scenes where you realize, like, you understand that there's something not right with him. He explains pretty quickly that it's because he has hibernation.
I can't do the voice, but I figured it was hibernation sickness.
Right. It's pretty quickly you find out that it's hibernation sickness.
Even though I've done some gravelly voices in the past, I cannot
Can't do Fishburne?
What?
Can't do the Fishburne?
No, I was going with Leia in Return of the Jedi.
Oh.
You have hibernation sickness.
Gotcha. That would have been great.
I cannot do it.
So you find out pretty quickly that's why he's sick. Did you almost kind of
laugh? Did you feel bad? Did you almost kind of laugh when the computer said 400 issues?
Yeah, almost. I laughed. No, I didn't laugh when the computer said. No. I laughed when the friggin' thing flew by on the screen, and it was like all these things were spitting out. I was like, that is absurd.
I almost laughed at that, and then I did laugh 2 seconds later when he said, "So is there anything wrong with me?" Yeah, a few things.
that was excellent. But so you find out he has this this hibernation sickness, like, because he was woken up abruptly because his pod malfunction was a lot more serious than Chris Pratt's. Chris Pratt's short-circuited and opened.
Theirs just
for early release.
His malfunctioned.
Yeah, his just popped open and he woke up out of it. Where Chris Pratt got through the whole
some sort of weird necrosis of everything.
Yeah.
Where basically his entire body just nope, and shut down.
Yeah, well, it was his entire body went to shock. It was in complete, there was no, none of his systems were running.
Yeah, they all started turning off at the same time.
On, and they're like, oh no, we can't do that. And they were just off, before he died.
They hit the master switch and turned it all off.
But part of me was thinking at first, from her face in those scenes, I was like, did she find a way to wake him up? Was she so mad at him that she wanted to wake up some member of the crew to help?
See, it's funny, because when we're first introduced to Gus, it's through a voice over the loudspeaker when he says, "Who the fuck put this tree here?"
Which, I put myself in their shoes for a second. I wouldn't have been excited. I probably would have dropped dead from fear. I think that's what would have been my first thing.
Well, it's I'm sorry, Dad.
Yeah.
That's your first thing.
Jesus.
It's funny, I had the opposite thought. I actually thought that Jim woke him up. Considering he already woke her up, so he knows how.
Interesting. I didn't think that.
Now, he hadn't been able to get to anyone, but we see a lot of them on opposite sides. We see him building things, trying to fix stuff to make things right, because this is after she's found out the truth, and I assumed that he woke Gus up to help fix everything.
Right.
As an olive branch to her, hey, I fucked up. Let me get someone who actually knows how to work this ship. We'll fix it together. Put you back in the pod. We'll all get back in the pod. It'll be great. But no, his pod just fucked up bad.
Right.
He disintegrated.
It didn't cross my mind that it would have been him. Because
that was when I was watching. That's how my mind worked.
He was, and I feel like the scene that makes it the reason why it didn't cross my mind is that scene that we talked about earlier, where he puts his arms out and he's like, "Kill me with this crowbar because I deserve to die." That scene was.
It's funny
the
that
reason.
We looked at it completely, because my mind was when she doesn't do that, whether you be granting him release or giving him the punishment he deserves. I took it that he had a new lease on life and was going to spend every waking second trying to make it right. So
I agree with that.
That's why
I don't think that waking somebody else up would have been any form of solution. Especially when we find out
he's the head of, like, supervising the ship and maintaining the ship. That's the guy who can fix the problem.
Yeah.
So it seemed to follow logically, a logical process for me. Like, I'm going to devote every fiber of my being. Let me get someone who can actually do something. Not someone who's 56 light years away who's going to respond to me when I'm 80.
Right. It's just like... It's fun. Yeah, I mean, he is completely necessary in the movie. It's really funny because it's like him waking up and them getting his bracelet, basically, is the only reason they live.
Yes.
Right? And the only reason that the other 5,000 people live.
Correct.
And this entire movie is like... It's like if you look at the main struggle that's presented in your face is the fact that he opened her pod. But if he didn't open her pod, they would all die. Because there's no way for him to save the ship alone.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true, but also, I mean, butterfly affecting it all, like, you know,
I feel like it's a chicken or the egg kind of thing.
It's possible. Well, I mean, I get what you're saying, the way that the situation ends up being presented with the two of them, but he may have tackled the problem earlier or in a different way, not having her to help. Or maybe he wakes up 15 people and says, hey, the ship's going to die. I kind of fucked up with your thing, but the options are you die on the ship 60 years from now, but you help me survive so that 5,000 people can survive, or you die and you don't even realize it when the ship blows up. Mm-hmm. Those people are going to be a lot less likely to try and murder him with a crowbar.
Sure.
Probably. Right?
It's just really interesting.
I really hate that you woke me up, but I'm glad that we're all going to live now because we fixed the ship.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, it's funny because, like, in a way, it's almost as if it tries to validate the fact that he woke her up.
I guess I could say that to a certain point, yeah.
It's not really the case. It's just very strange.
It's true. I mean, I guess that would be the one point of credence I'd lend towards someone who is mad at the way that the whole situation was represented with all of it, is that the struggle in the plot could almost be looked at as a contrivance to reconcile the two of them. But the fact that they still left her with an out at the end of it all, I think mostly disproves that.
He had to wake her up because of the implication.
Because of the implication.
Terrible.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's not the right thing to be bringing up when we're talking about that.
No. No, but, yeah.
So, I mean, we've kind of got into aspects of it. The two, like, Jim and Aurora's bond and their chemistry on screen kind of carries most of the movie, especially in the middle third.
Most?
But we haven't really talked about
the entire movie.
Well, I mean, she's not there for most of the first third of the movie.
Okay.
But
the movie gets so much better once she arrives.
Sure, I'm just saying, like, we've talked about one specific aspect of it. Did they convince you on screen? Did they work for you as...
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
100%. Here's the thing. I don't think this movie works with other actors and actresses. Other actor and actress. I should be more clear.
Yes. I mean, I don't disagree with that. I mean,
who could you recast in this movie? If you not who could you recast? If you had to recast both main roles, who were some other actors and actresses that you could?
Do I have to recast both, or can I just recast one?
Ooh,
Bradley Cooper.
Interesting.
Well, he works with Jennifer Lawrence, so
that's true. No, I totally
They've
see that.
They've been in every David O. Russell movie,
yeah.
So.
And then, like, your, like, distant, was it your uncle-in-law, cousin, whatever.
My uncle-in-law?
What is it? Yeah. Basically, right? That's correct,
almost,
isn't it?
If that was a thing,
yeah.
almost.
He could play Lawrence Fishburne's character. And then it's just the director from Silver Linings Playbook. And boom.
So we just take...
We recasted the whole movie, except for Jennifer Lawrence.
Was he Morton Tilden? We'll just replace him with David O. Russell and...
Even better halfway through the movie. Not for the whole movie. This would be amazing. Robert De Niro would play the android. It's literally just the cast of Silver Linings.
Michael Pena.
Oh. Interesting. Seriously.
No, I mean, obviously there are...
They have good chemistry, so it would totally work. And he has...
That was what I was going for.
He does have the comedy chops, but I don't see him as a comedy actor. I see him as more of a dramatic...
Which he is,
role.
but the point is that he has the similar range. No, I was just trying to pick somebody like off the top of my head. The two of them have been in like 3 or 4 movies together. You know what I mean?
I will put it this way: I don't want to see anybody else in this movie, which is great. I think that's a good credit to them.
It couldn't work with anyone else. It sure as hell could, but it's a short list of people it would work with.
Yeah,
I mean, how many?
I don't know though, because there's the lightheartedness that he brings early in the movie.
See, now I want to think about this, but me sitting here silently for 90 seconds...
Yeah, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
It doesn't make for a good podcast. But there is...
But you're making me want to
He has a skill set that works so well for this character from early on, where it's like, he gets to be funny, you know. He gets to be... Like, again, it's his sizzle reel for auditioning for something. Like, he shows full range, and he's fantastic.
And we get to see them across the arc of all the highs and lows of any relationship, whether it be a romantic relationship or any relationship is like a weighted word, like to mean like romantic. It doesn't always mean that. Like you and I have a relationship. Mm-hmm. It's not a romantic relationship. It's a familiar relationship. It's a...
Oh, dang.
I mean, I see you checking me out here. I got like the tank top on. It's a little tight. I mean...
I'm just wondering why you can't buy a shirt that fits you. That's what I'm saying. I'm kidding.
The shirt fits. Fits fantastically.
I can see that. Like, if that was a pretty quick answer for who could replace him, and it makes sense. I get it. I can't think of somebody quickly that would replace her.
Like keeping Chris Pratt as the lead.
Sure, let's do that.
Going back the opposite way. Well, he doesn't have the same. He doesn't have the same body of work with any one other actor. I mean, like, would it be Aubrey Plaza? Like,
no.
I mean, well, why not?
I think she can be funny.
I mean, she's not as good as an actress
and she
as
can be
Jennifer
deadpan.
Lawrence, but
she's not. I don't see her in a role like this. Or maybe the most serious role I saw her in was like
she's been in some things lately, like more indie stuff that I haven't seen.
That's actually exactly where I was going. I saw an indie movie with.
There's something I wanted to see
her
that she was in. And
I can't remember exactly.
There's
what
one where
it was.
she was like a zombie or something.
Of course, there was. But I don't see her in this type of role.
No, she doesn't have the same chops per se, or at least she hasn't proven it yet.
Right.
She's young still.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess so is Jennifer Lawrence, but she broke in at such a young age. Mm-hmm. But no, I was just trying to think of when we just started that part of this discussion. I was trying to think of 2 people together who like have clearly shown that level of chemistry, who have range.
Right.
And it's not something I can do thinking and talking at the same time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I get that.
But it was just an easy cop out because Jennifer Lawrence and Bradley Cooper have been together in Silver Linings and American Hustle and that Joy, was that what it was?
Mm-hmm. Was he in that?
Yeah, I think
I didn't see
plays
Joy.
her husband.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that one.
I didn't either, but that's also David O. Russell. All 3 of them were. So
those movies are... The ones that I have seen are just... Oh.
Yeah. No, I mean, American Hustle is great.
Yeah.
Silver Linings is even better.
Beautiful.
Like,
yeah. Great movie.
I remember that's a movie. It's funny, we talked about... I know we're getting on a bit of a tangent, but fuck it. We talked about Mr. Nobody, and you were talking about how you almost show off the movie. I got to the point where I was getting anxiety from watching Silver Linings, and I almost turned it off because I didn't see where all the stuff that everyone said was so great about it. It gets so dark and heavy over the first... It's like 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. It takes a long time to start building towards something, and it still is rocky from that point, right?
Sure.
With how everything goes, but it got to the point where it's the scene where was he looking for the wedding video or the wedding album in the attic, and like he breaks down and everything like that.
That's intense.
That's pretty far into the movie without much positive, and like I was like, if this movie doesn't start turning around, I'm gonna have to turn it off because it's bringing me down so much.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing where the positive aspect is coming.
I think you're supposed to feel that way.
I know, it's just like the payoff took so... And not even just like the happy ending part. Yeah. Like, just to see what there was going to be light somewhere in the distance.
Right.
I I remember like sitting and watching it. I was watching it in my room. It was late at night. I was like, this movie is so dark.
Yeah.
And where is all this inspirational stuff that everyone's talking about? Like, I'm not seeing it, guys. Mm-hmm. But it's a great movie. I really enjoy that movie. Now that once I'd seen the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. For sure, I get that. But I don't want like it's funny like I'm asking you that question because the reason I'm asking is I don't want these characters. I wouldn't want these characters recast. I think this is a perfect casting job.
I wouldn't necessarily want it to be something either. I chafe at no one else could do this.
Right. Weird thing. Gus, aside from the humanity aspect where it has to be a person so that the person can die, the rest of him could have easily been played by a robot.
Sure.
You just need the credentials.
Yeah.
That's really it.
I mean, like you said, you have to feel it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is another person, and wow, they've been complaining. Look how bad it could have been.
Yeah, that's true. I will say one of the most beautiful scenes in the movie is when he's going to go get him the pills, and he asks him to stay.
Well,
and the three of them are sitting, and it's one of those still shots that you could just like freeze frame and print it and put it on the wall. It's very beautiful. It's like space and the three of them that are struggling with an issue that like literally no one else has ever had to deal with. It's a very new ground, and they're breaking it together.
Yeah,
and it's beautiful. And then he dies, like essentially in Chris Pratt's arms, and like the two of them begin to reconnect a little bit over that.
He is a unifying force, and an android or a robot doesn't do that for them.
Right. I guess that is true.
So that's another aspect of why it's got to be a person.
That's fair. Yeah, I guess.
And it's not even just for the fact of unifying them to be a couple, because at that point, still, even after all that happens, if she goes in the pod, no one has an issue.
No, it's the fact that it's a person.
The two of them can't come together and save the ship,
right?
Without him dying.
Because what it brought them was the realization that there's 5,000 other human beings that think they're fine right now.
No matter how shitty everything's been between the two of them, and no matter how much she hates him, rightfully so. No matter how much he hates himself, rightfully so. That there's something way bigger and more important than the two of them. And his death, unfortunately, is the price that they have to pay to realize that. Mm-hmm. Not that the death was at their hands. It wasn't their fault that he died, but, Oh my
god. I love that. So in the scene where the ship loses gravity...
That was a really cool scene.
Great scene.
Terrifying.
War is horrifying.
Yeah.
That's what I learned from that scene.
You know what I learned from that? If I'm ever given the opportunity.
Tuck your bed in.
No.
That's what I learned, because otherwise Lawrence Fishburne would have been dead a little bit earlier in the movie.
What I learned was, if I'm ever granted the opportunity to ride on an interstellar travel in outer space, I'm not going in the pool.
No, fuck that.
I'm not going in the pool unless I know that there's gravity 100% of the time.
Right.
Not 99.9% of the time. 100% of the time.
I could not agree with you more. That was terrifying.
Yes.
She's drowning
a lot
in midair and can't move.
The worst is, the bubble is there, and she's like, "Oh, I'll just swim out of it." No, you won't.
No. And again, another solid acting.
Really,
scene.
Really good.
I was like,
physical acting.
I couldn't breathe because she couldn't breathe.
Yeah, because the scene goes on for that long, and it's like, and you're like, "Oh yeah, he like Chris Pratt's floating around and he's cracked his head on something. That sucks." Can we stop her from drowning? Oh, she's still drowning? Okay. In midair? Great. Awesome.
What?
No. Bad.
And then what I actually didn't really understand is how she gained consciousness again. That seems like a flaw to me.
It was the Inception kick.
Got it.
Or whatever.
Got it. Other side, real interesting, real ballsy move if the director was just like, fuck the studio. She dies. She just drowns midair. And when he falls, he breaks his neck.
Could have been a compelling way.
And then Lawrence Fishburne dies alone. And then the entire ship explodes. That's
a
a real sad story, but another complete possibility.
Who makes that movie? There's a movie that could be that could be a thing.
This guy.
No. I think we can come up. There's someone who makes that movie. There has to be someone else who did survive it. But someone makes a movie where all three of them I'm just trying to think of who it would be. That's the thing. I feel like that. Like, this is reminding me.
Directs the most episodes of Game of Thrones. Oh, you like these characters?
Nope.
Let's get rid of those real quick. It's definitely not the folks at AMC.
If you're listening to this, please go to the Spinchoon, and please, especially if you're a Walking Dead fan, please read Anthony's story on the Spinchoon about the fan and The Walking Dead and AMC.
The Poisonous Love Triangle.
The Poisonous Love Triangle.
It's beautiful.
You weren't harsh enough, but you got a lot of the good points.
I had to be realistic.
Yeah.
Kind
of sucked their dick a little bit, though.
What?
What?
Disagree. Here's another scene that I didn't fully get. I don't think it was necessary for that random screw to go into her arm. It was just a really weird thing that I was like, what? That was weird. That doesn't...
I thought it added
it's
weight.
just... Is that what it was, is that the intention?
Yeah.
You know what added the weight for me? When a little bit of the glass broke, I was like, oh, we're all fucking dead. It was like, it's over.
Because you're dealing with the fact that he's dealing with the fact that he's about to incinerate himself to death, and she's just waiting to touch a hot switch.
And so she's so it's more...
It's to kind of even the equation. Like, he's probably definitely going to die. She might die.
But there's
because if it's just like,
yeah,
oh, she gets to sit inside in the thing and just flip the switch when the time comes.
But it was just
and
odd.
It's kind of hot.
It was one
Burned
screw.
Her hand a little bit.
It was one screw. I just feel like if one screw's coming loose, more screws are coming loose. If more screws are coming loose, this whole thing is opening up. The reactor's going to just blow them away.
Well, I think they wanted to hit somewhere in between the two.
All right.
Just one screw came.
Okay.
But if we didn't get there, the rest of the thing does, and we blow up, like you say. But she has to do more than just scald her skin a little bit. She has to have real stakes.
Fair.
You know?
That was devastating when... again, just a credit to her acting. When she thinks that he's dead. He's not responsive. It's just like...
Plus we got to see
just
Gravity
lost.
2.0.
Yeah. She's just
Where
completely
she goes
lost.
out and she's trying to grab him and she grabs the string. And literally, they robbed that scene from Gravity.
I mean, you see that happening immediately. Like
Yes.
you like that. That's like one of those silly things. It's like they didn't really know. I feel like they didn't know like how else to do it. It was very clear from the moment that his tether snapped.
Yes.
That was going to be the piece that she grabbed onto, and I was fine with it. It's like whatever. Binder thing that was super predictable.
Also, while I was watching it, I was like, "This is like what year was it? It was like 2400 or something like that.
I don't know.
2200. Why didn't they have the little jetpacks on their spaceship, those space things, the way Gravity did? While I was watching that scene, I was like, this would have been a lot easier if they had those little jetpack things. Why does he have no way to renegotiate himself? Maybe he couldn't make it all the way back, but at least make it...
Yeah, like change his trajectory or something. It was a really funny thing that like really enhanced the gravity of the scene is when he kicked his door through the thrusters and it just incinerated.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh. I was like, what would that do to a human?
It was almost even like,
Good
a
God.
little wake-up call to himself. Like,
Yeah.
I want to get away from that thing now.
Like,
I
will
should
die
be
in the
over there.
vacuum of space before I will go through that.
I know I'm not supposed to be over near that. Way worse than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. It's so bad. Let's get back to the note that I took down earlier. That I said I was going to get back to.
Hey, you said you had a bunch of notes. I don't know how many you've hit.
We've hit most of them.
I know I'm down to like one or... What?
I have a note here that says
I have one, but I want to
says a tree grows in Brooklyn. That's the note. There's nothing else to it. It's just the fact that he grew a tree in the middle of the place. I thought that was fun.
I have one, but it, by definition, needs to be towards.
I can check this off. Water is terrifying. Was one of my notes.
Definitely.
When the airlock chamber. This goes back to that. Early in the movie, you had your issues with it. You were like, "Oh, it looks like it's open to the rest of the ship. Oh, he should have been
not the rest of the ship, but the rest of that room.
The rest of the room
with where the suit and all the equipment was.
Why is there no failsafe? Which we actually don't know that there's not a like. If he hit it, we don't know that.
All I know is when he went out there was less failsafes than needed, but it didn't matter because he was in a suit and it was closed. But when he goes back in there unsuited, there seem to be less strictures.
Here's the thing that took me out of the experience. When they are sending Lawrence Fishburne out into space.
Gus.
When they're sending Gus out into space, he's in the airlock chamber.
I liked it, the Viking funeral. in space.
Yeah, I hope I don't ruin this for you. They open the airlock, and his body continues to lay on the floor.
Yes.
Nope. Not how that's going to work.
No.
No.
Wait, what do you mean?
He doesn't have any magnet feet. He doesn't have the magnet feet that Chris Pratt's wearing at the time. He opens the airlock. It opens up. You see the rush of air and things and particles that are in the room go out. But his limp body stays on the floor.
But it does go out eventually.
They don't show you that.
But that...
It should have went out really quickly and much sooner.
Yeah, but the whole point of why they were doing that was that his body was going to... When that scene ends, it's not like they walk back and the body's still in there. Like, it goes up.
Agreed. But as soon as the door cracks, his body should have been sucked out.
Probably, yes.
And it wasn't. And that bothered me.
Anyway.
And then I thought of Yondu.
Yes.
And I laughed a little.
He's Mary Poppins.
I was very happy. And I just... I ignored the fact that it took me out of the scene. And I just remembered how great that movie was for a minute. Also starring Chris Pratt. Boom!
See, it's funny that you brought that up because I was thinking about this both when I watched the movie in the week since I watched the movie and even while we've been sitting here, how I'm going to bring it up eventually. But the end of the movie, very end, the rest of the crew wakes up when they, rightfully the way they were supposed to, with the last couple of months before they made their final approach. And Andy Garcia, who plays the captain...
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why they bothered casting him, because did he have, one line?
How much did that cost, you think?
I don't know. I mean, he's not, Robert Downey Jr., but he's a name.
He's not, but he's a known quantity.
There's no need to have him be that person, because he doesn't do anything.
Does he have a line? He doesn't even have a line, does he?
I'm trying to remember. I feel like he had one line.
Did he say something?
Literally one.
It was who did this?
Something.
Yeah.
And he, smiled in wonder.
Mm-hmm.
But we got Gus space when they spaced him when he died. What did they do with the bodies of Jim and Aurora?
I would like a second part of this. Maybe another. I would like to know who died first and how the other person dealt with that.
Did they have a suicide pact?
Maybe.
I
don't know.
When the end time is near, let's both go together.
It really isn't important.
It's not.
They die. Obviously, that's clear.
Yeah, more than likely.
I mean, the two of them aren't living another 88 years. They're both in their 30s.
Well, who knows? They have that cool medical pod. Maybe that extended their lives.
That'd be actually really funny. They're just 90 something. They're just crushing around in this forest that they made in the middle of the ship.
Hey, fuckers!
Yeah.
About time.
Where are we landing? But it was really funny. It's when I saw when the crew walks out into the ship. It's not funny. I don't know why I use that word. When the crew walks out into the ship, and
noteworthy. It was noteworthy.
It wasn't. Yeah, and you see all of the greenery, and you see what they've done. You're but the first thing that came over me was oh, they died, and I wasn't sad. I was just this is they lived here, and they lived out their lives. That's what I saw.
See, I experienced it similarly. The thing is, I took it a step further. I'm man, they're so happy and thinking it's so cool seeing all those things. Imagine who discovers the body or bodies.
Mine was sweet. Yours went dark.
Well, that was my thought. It was you guys are having a great time. One of you is going to open a closet and you're going to find a body.
Right.
You'd be oh, that's who did all of this, and they're no longer alive.
Right.
Which is shitty. I guess Arthur would tell them this tale. That's the one thing. They had to have left some really cool video logs of all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Which would have been cool for the crew to watch.
Arthur, was it $6,000 to send an email home?
Yes, or something like that.
That's another funny thing.
Wait, no. Just table that. That's my cool thing I want to talk about.
Okay, we'll get to that.
We can talk about some stuff with you, but there's something very specific.
That's the last thing.
There's something very specific I want to talk about with that.
Fine.
But I feel like Arthur's got a good record of what they have. He's probably, people could talk to him hey.
That's true.
Which also reminds me of...
That's a really good point. That would be a really fun way. There's multiple possibilities of a sequel in a world where they would never do it. But, that would that could work.
Just like a story time.
Yeah.
Arthur just telling how everything happened.
I like it.
Kind of C-3PO in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Like talking to the Ewoks and giving them the whole thing. Yeah, with all the sound effects.
That's the best part of those stories.
I love... It's such a little thing, but I love when the ship is malfunctioning and Arthur is malfunctioning. The two of them run over and unplug him so he doesn't hurt himself anymore.
It was so sweet.
Right?
It was so endearing.
It was like, you two hated each other 3 minutes ago until Gus died. You still hate each other, but you realize you need each other. But the one thing you could always bond on, like, I thought it's Tuesday, it's my day with Arthur. Like, Arthur's
so good.
Tearing himself up, and he can't stop himself, and the two of you stop to make sure that he stops hurting himself.
I'm glad you brought
Even
that
though
up.
the ship is exploding around you and you need to fix it.
Beautiful scene.
Right?
Yeah. And
then at
then
the
like
end, when
later
she's
when she's
sewing his
fixing him
skin,
up,
like-
it's just like, it's heart melting.
Definitely. Because I love Arthur. You're like, he's not even a person, but like Michael Sheen makes him almost a person, and like, he's just that funny, like, wry sense of humor. Like,
It's great. It's really great.
the fact that he was like the only like anchor for the two of them when they were at their lowest points in the stories. You know what I mean? Like, and I did enjoy like the little bit of investigative work they have to do, trying to figure out how everything works. Like, that was actually a pretty harrowing scene when they go into that room and he moves the thing and it's just open to open space, and they're both like, she's getting sucked out and he's like using the iPad basically stop it. Like, that was a cool scene. Like, and then they do like it shot through this room, it shot through that room, it shot through... Oh, it's the core.
Right.
Oh, fuck. Worst possible news.
Yep. So what were you going to go on?
Oh, no. Like, I was going to let you take the hand off there. Like, we were talking about the meteor. Like, worst possible news, the core was destroying. Like,
yeah.
Like, I thought we were just doing an organic conversation.
No, I've got nothing else other than, like, at this point, if you're this far into this episode, you've seen the movie.
Oh, yeah.
If not, I'm surprised why.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just figure we're kind of doing greatest hits here because, like, we're just kind of remembering the little things that worked for us in this movie.
You know what's another good thing? She goes on her jog, right?
Which one?
Multiple times.
Okay.
She jogs throughout the...
She does. I thought you were talking about one specific...
No, well, I'll get there. But, like, it's funny, like, they do that early on. Like, the two of them are into fitness in some way, shape, or form. Obviously, they're both fit people.
Hashtag fit life.
He's been going to the gym. Like, there's scenes where he goes to an actual, like, a pod gym.
Was it?
Yeah, it was very
subtle. I remember playing basketball.
It's a pulled back shot of a room, of like a series of rooms that you can go into, and one of them is a gym, and he's in there. I actually don't remember that. But and then she's running through, like, she's going on her daily jogs, her daily swims, like whatever that it is. But when he realized that he can't get, like, she's not going to listen to him, he takes matters into his own hands, and he's like, I'm just going to broadcast this over the PA system.
So that was a little one that I'll chalk that up to the point of the idea of people who had a problem with the way it was represented. Mm-hmm. That was a little shitty because it was like she definitely needed her space.
I agree that she needed her space.
Like, it's tough. It's definitely a gray area.
They weren't clear on how long it had been.
True.
And
they definitely played with timelines.
I do think that it was months.
Probably.
I think it was a very, very long time. Because we know that he can obviously last a year by himself. We know that, like, it was not long after that, in theory, the way that that it was shot and seemingly sequenced, that Lawrence Fishburne came along, which seems like it was another year after that. So it was like,
that's what I was saying. So it seemed like it's a year and a year.
It's confusing. But I would assume that it was a extended period of time went by, and he was so consumed by this. Yeah, it wasn't a week. That he felt that he regardless, he does not care if she forgives him. Like, he welcomes it if she does not. But he needs to say his piece.
Yeah.
And he needs to apologize.
Because there's no chance. There's no chance for reconciliation. And there's no chance even for her to reconcile with herself unless she hears his whole story.
Right. And it's the only way that he's able to tell it to her. And she screams back at him from the balcony. I'm like, yeah. Like, in this moment, you're really siding with her. Like you're like, yeah, totally. Like, I get it. Like, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, I'd be like, I've been trying to avoid you, and you're just gonna get on the loudspeaker where I can't avoid you. No, fuck you.
Which is basically what she says.
That's what I'm
saying. Yeah. That scene was intense. There's a lot of really good. I found myself getting emotional watching this movie at different times, and it is very much a credit to the actors in the film.
Yeah, and the people behind the camera as well. I mean, like, you can't have a movie like this where, like, when you talk about scenes or scenes where, like, you really feel something. It's never just the writing and direction. It's never just the acting. It's got to be all of them together, right? Because it just doesn't work if it's not all of it coming together in kind of a perfect harmony.
Yeah.
But you're right. They're the face on that connection point that you have, and they did a really good job of it.
I would, whoever was like the casting director, I've
never taken too much note of all this.
Round of applause to you, whatever hand you had in this, because like I don't know how they gauged the chemistry between the actors beforehand or not, but it seems as if they did some research. I mean, like, you can so clearly think, oh, like, they picked two blockbuster hits out of a hat, right? And, like, mashed them together for this movie. But I don't think that was the case. I think they actually... I feel like it's more like they thought of people that can go together, they auditioned these people, and they just so happen to be blockbuster hit people.
It's so hard to tell, though, because, like, you've seen examples of movies where people who were real-life romantically linked who have zero on-screen chemistry together. And you have situations where people had no history working together and they have tremendous chemistry together.
Right.
You have people who, you see a movie and like, wow, they have great chemistry together, and then they go on to work on 4 or 5 movies together. You know, it's like, wow. Like, yeah, like, it was like, if I saw that movie and I was making a movie, I'd be like, yeah, I need both of them because they can totally pull this off together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's no... It's one of, like, the truest way, like, you just can't do the math on it. Like, you either have it or you don't. There's no way you can say, oh, this person's quirky and whatever, and this person is, like, whatever personality. There's no way you can, like, distill that down into a crucible and figure out these two people are definitely going to have chemistry.
Right.
Because it's funny, you hear some of the stories about the making of The Force Awakens, and Finn and Rey have really good chemistry on screen. But if you hear, and this, they only released this stuff after the movie came out, J.J. Abrams said the two of them had no chemistry when they first started making the movie. And they only figured it all out when Harrison Ford broke his leg when the Millennium Falcon door fell on him. And J.J. Abrams literally broke his back in that whole situation. You know that whole story, right? They were shooting a scene, and the Millennium Falcon door crushed Harrison Ford's foot or ankle and broke it. And they couldn't get the door to open, and J.J. Abrams ran to go help him, and they were trying to pry the door open, and he, like, fractured a vertebra or something like that.
Oh, my God.
And
I didn't know that.
They didn't shoot for, like, 2 months because Harrison Ford was badly injured. J.J. Abrams was badly injured.
Director.
And he's, like... Even at that point, he said, like, it was, like, a blessing in disguise because at that point, things were really bad. Not that, like, they didn't get along, but, like, they just weren't working on screen. And he rewrote a ton of shit, and they worked on it. Just worked on reading it and doing it together. And then you come out on the other side, and it's like, Daisy Ridley and John Boyega are great on screen together.
Yeah.
But he said that was absolutely not the case.
That's funny. I love that.
Right?
That's great.
So, like, you even have, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't do the math. Because Dave's like... For whatever reason, they picked the two of them because they thought both of them were rising stars. Because both of them had not been in anything or hardly anything at the time. And you start doing it, and they don't work at all. And how many movies have we seen where it's like, oh, there's these two big stars, and you watch a movie, and it's like, they're both wooden on screen. Mm-hmm. That they actually had that, but somehow still managed to fix it and get it right in the end. Right. Like, that's like, how do you do the math on that? You can't. It's impossible.
That's funny, yeah. And this is like in this scenario, you're getting A-list where the chemistry works. It's like a perfect storm, which is it's kind of funny. Did you have any? It sounded like you had something else at least that you wanted.
There's one thing specifically. It's a little thing.
Yeah, hit me.
Something I just kind of found funny. I wanted is more. I mean, if there's any other idea that you come up with, we
can
talk about it. But I just wanted it to be
clear off the board. So
okay, so we got into a little bit the idea of that it would take 56 years or whatever, 60 years or whatever it was, 50 something years for a message to get back.
Oh right, yeah.
Once Jim sends
Thanks for bringing that back up.
the message out. Yeah, well, this is the thing that I had. And I'm gonna take it like the slightest tangent because we kind of like. Yeah, we love the idea of this new frontier where we're sending it out. Actually, we didn't talk about. Sorry, I'm putting that on hold because there's a couple other things I'm realizing. I had thought about it, but I didn't have a note on it. Aurora's actual story, what he fell in love with on the computer, and when they start talking when she first wakes up. The idea that she was a journalist who goes on this 120-year journey to a different planet at the time that's what travel looks like. And as I was experiencing this movie and the way it came out, it reminded me so much of Mass Effect Andromeda, which I know I've brought up a bunch, where like that one, they get into a ship and they travel for 600 years in cryo, the exact same way, and they're in a new galaxy. So everyone they ever knew was dead.
Right.
And the same thing with this, right? You travel for 120 years and everyone you know is dead. She's going to spend a year or two on this colony planet writing everyone's stories. Then she's going to go back in cryo and travel back for 120 years. So we're talking about 240 plus years that she'll have.
Yeah.
And then she's going to tell her story. She's going to be the first person to ever go to one of these colonies and comes back. Right? That's a fascinating story. Well, I remember when I was watching, I was like, holy shit, that's a ballsy fucking move. And it was kind of heartbreaking when you watch it. Like, he was watching the video of her friends, like, sending the goodbye video.
She was, yeah. She was watching her videos that were sent to her.
Was she watching it?
Yeah.
I thought it was him watching it. Either way. Yeah. Because it's like she's got to kind of go through that twice. Like, she's going to make more friends doing this story for a year or two, and then she's going to go back again, and she's not going to see any of them. And on the one hand, it's like...
That is heartbreaking.
Right?
Yeah.
Like the one, like with the girl... The one girl, like her friend was saying, I don't know why you feel like you have to do this, but because you have people who love you, but like I get it. It's like, wow, like that's... It
was kind of sweet, that video.
Right?
Yeah.
But sad, really sad. But the point is, like that is really cool. Like, oh, you get to go back to Earth 240 years later and see, like, what the fuck has changed. Like, that's cool shit. Like, it's a big catch-up, but it's like... Holy crap. And you are going to be the focus of so much, like, oh my god, someone is, like, what are these things that you notice that are new? Tell us something about 240 years ago. Tell us about this colony that we hear about and, like, occasionally we see videos from, but it's, like, 60 years ago.
Right,
like, we haven't talked to anyone there. It's like we just, like, see videos from them. We send them videos occasionally. That's cool shit. And it made me think of... was when he sends the video, when he's in his first initial panic, and he sends a video to them, he records it, and it's like, what do I do? I was hoping, greedily, because we don't necessarily deserve it, but how cool would it be to have had a post-credit thing or an epilogue thing?
Yes, okay, so I'm glad you said that.
Where they could have showed it to us, it could have been short.
Yeah.
And I'm envisioning it being him as a very old man in makeup, maybe like the way in Mr. Nobody, where he's got the old like stuff, like old Nemo does, and he's sitting there watching the video from someone saying, "Oh my god, we have no idea how this happened, and by the time you're getting this video, there's nothing you can do. But if by some chance you're still alive and still want to do it, this is what you got to do to get it to work." And I'm just picturing him sitting there watching it, having a wry smile, and then he clicks off the monitor and walks away.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Right?
Love it.
How fucking cool would that have been? And that's something I thought of, like, kind of in the past couple days, is like, as I was thinking about this, knowing that we were going to do this, like, this topic for an episode, it was like, that would have been a fucking awesome send-off to this.
On that exact topic, what I was thinking of throughout this movie and, like, when it ended, it's like, if this movie or IP was in the wrong hands... And I say the wrong hands because I feel like sequels are a mistake in a lot of scenarios. Sequels and trilogies don't always work. They almost, in a lot of cases, don't work.
Well,
they get worse and worse.
They work better when it's planned ahead of time.
That's true. But if it's like, oh, like, okay, we made a shit ton of money, let's make another one. That's not going to work. But here's scenarios where it could work. And then I started thinking deeper and deeper into a post-credit scene, similar to what you're talking about, which is funny that you brought that up. So I thought a couple of things could have happened. They could either, like, oh, like, if there's something like, I don't know, like Warner Brothers or somebody, and maybe the movie raked in a shit ton of cash. Like, they would do, like, oh, like, they'd do a sequel, and then it's like, maybe they had kids, right? A really artsy version of this would be, it's the 4 months when the ship is headed to the planet, and Arthur is retelling their tale over the years that you didn't see.
Yeah.
That would be beautiful. Or like there's a number of different ways they can go, and I don't want them to, because I love the beauty of that last scene where you have like this peaceful meadow. It's almost like a heavenly state that they were in,
Garden of Eden,
which is probably where they died.
Brings back to the Adam and Eve.
Yeah, which is kind of I really do enjoy that. I love the way that the whole movie played out. And I think that adding more could, if not done properly, would cheapen it, and that is the case in a lot of scenarios. If you could do it in some ways, if you like played it to a T, like it just had it just right, maybe just a little tease. A sequel would never work.
No.
But an after credit scene could be something really a nice little touch. What you said works. Like, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like,
or even
like that.
even expand on it slightly. Like, even better than just the hitting it off and like walking away. Like, I could just see him cutting it off and like sending them back a message saying, you know, guys, I figured it out. It was great, and like sending it to them.
Yeah.
Like, let them know everything's okay. Because like we said, there is a whole situation where for those 4 months, instead of reading orientation materials, these people are watching videos that they left behind and reading what they left behind because
right.
They write or like figuring out what happened over the last 90 years. I don't need to see another movie about it. Like maybe it was like a 20-minute short they made or something.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Right? Like,
well, like you mentioned maybe something she wrote. Just a scene that we didn't touch on when he made her the Chrysler building.
That was cool.
That was
one of those things that like every man and woman, doesn't have to be just man, like every man and woman who has or does love someone and like is in a relationship, it's like I need to find my version of that
right
for my significant other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things that's like hopelessly romantic that it's like
it's a beautiful scene. It's really great. This movie was excellent.
I enjoyed it, against the weird crap leading into me ending up actually seeing it, I ended up enjoying it a pretty good amount.
Do you have any other closing thoughts? Or topics?
I've been noticing a lot of times in the hours and maybe a day or so after we finish recording, I'm like, fuck, that's something I should have brought up. Mm-hmm. Oh, I kind of forgot about that. But no, this was a good episode.
Yeah, it was a good episode.
To my own horn.
I like it.
Our own horn here. This was a good episode.
We had a nice combo there.
Yeah.
Hey, and also, if we forget something, we could totally bring it up at the beginning of the next week.
True.
Totally worth it. So that's it for this week's Flix and a Six. Check out Spinchoon.com each week for a new episode and random article. As I mentioned last week, you don't ask for them, but damn it,
we do them.
We're going to keep delivering them. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, cheers.